You wanna find different circumstances. Maybe you just become kind of like just kind of bored with the situation, or thinking that you want to kind of challenge yourself more. And that was kind of where it got to at Eastern. It just became, it was an administration that really said, like, you're already at the ceiling. You don't have the possibility of making more money. We encourage you to kind of move on eventually and find something better than what we're offering. And then it was the challenge of wanting to transition away from football. So that was kind of my first job change, was to go from director of strength conditioning over a football program to over Olympic sports, which, is night and day different in that regard. So that process, I was 6 years at Eastern. Then I took my first director of Olympic sports job. That was another 2 years. I came here as another director of Olympic sports, not thinking initially, with the plan being that I was going to take this current position after, maybe 5 to 10 years. And it just so happened that everything kind of aligned. Unfortunately for the gentleman who was in front of me, with him losing his position was why I had the opportunity. So, a lot of my career opportunity has been, I've earned the right, I guess, to get considered for things, but I've still got lucky. Just being here at the time that I was here was really why I was the best candidate for the job, to be honest.
So how long were you at State before you moved up to head position?
I've been here 2 years, just going into year 3. And again, that's not very typical. The gentleman who had this job before me started it when he was 57 years old. Most directors of Olympic sports in Power 5 conferences are 40 plus, 45 plus, people that have been in the industry for a long time, because this position just kind of carved out in the last probably 5 to 10 years, because a lot of people, they wanted to make a good wage. They wanted to work with driven sports, or driven athletes, but at the same time they wanted to disconnect from football, because football was so tenuous. People couldn't keep jobs, and people wanted to have families, and they wanted to have some stability.
Right.
So that was where this position really started, and so it's just not even been in existence for very long. So most of the people that have it are people that have been in the industry for a long time. So again, I'm probably still to this day in the Power 5 conference. The ACC for sure, I'm the youngest director of Olympic sports by far. If you look at even UNC and Duke, the gentleman at Duke is 47, the gentleman at UNC is 55. So it's not typically reserved for people that are at my point in my career.
Well, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So through your whole experience of going to undergrad, interning, grad school, and then your first jobs, what would you do differently over that whole experience, if there was a couple things you could pick out easily?
Man. I guess looking back, I chose a university because of sport. So maybe I grew up in Washington, so could have challenged myself maybe more academically and said, okay, I know that football is not going to be an option long term, so maybe I can go to a University of Washington or Oregon or something like that, where I get maybe a little bit more exposure to just different ways of thinking, different opportunities in that regard. But I don't think it would have really changed my career path much. Again, to get where I've got to, it is kind of the combination of luck and skill and just right place, right time. So I don't know, man. I really wouldn't change much.
Well, it's good to hear.
Yeah.
All right.